Links to previous episodes are given in the video description, so don't forget to like, subscribe and share the video. The Sorrow of Omega's Broken Heart. Episode 24. Book 3. Chapter 312. New friend, looks like you're out for a walk, not work. Delilah stared at his furious face. Why does he look so infuriated? I was with his friend. Didn't he himself let me go with him? She thought. His sharp darker eyes gaze at her. Connor cleared his throat. Accept my apology, Everett. She will be back early from tomorrow, I promise. Everett's eyes never left Delilah. Connor took his leave and went back to his village. Delilah lowered her eyes. She did not know what to say at that moment. Did he tell her to come at a certain time? Did she forget that? Why was he outside? Was he waiting for her? So many questions came to her mind, but she did not dare to ask him. Master, I am going to prepare dinner, she said and opened the door to enter. He did not stop her either. The following days went well. Delilah was able to learn how to help doctors. She memorized medical aid, and which potions were used for what. This village was full of witches. She had never seen witches until she came here. In her pack, different creatures were not allowed. But in that village, everyone lived together. Do you give the potion to the patient? No. 27. Yes, Miss Winters. Lily nodded at Delilah. At first, Lily thought Delilah was just a fragile and weak Omega. But day by day she proved her wrong. It had been 2 weeks since she joined the hospital and she was doing a good job. She was helping Lily as a good assistant. Lily thought the head doctor had an eye for choosing people. Every day Delilah went to work early in the morning and came back in the afternoon. When Delilah started to come and go alone, she thought she would die in fear. But she was wrong. The forest was not scary. She was used to the forest now. In fact, no beast was living there. She assumed that the beast only lived out of the boundary she crossed before coming here. However, she never met that child named Amelia again. She did not ask for her to. She decided to stop talking about the beast since he was not attacking her, nor did he hurt her. Delilah and Everett both were two different people. They were living together in a house, in the same bed, but still, they did not communicate much. It was because Everett was living a confidential life. She did not know what he did to live for. She never dared to ask him. He always came home late and went outside before she woke up. She could only talk to him when she woke early before him or if her sleep broke in the middle of the night. Delilah. A boy called her from behind. Delilah turned to him. Ron. Ron was a doctor of wolves. There were a few doctors in the village hospital. They divided their activities for between the wolf and human forms. Ron and a few more doctors helped the villagers when someone's wolf got sick or weak. Meanwhile, Connor was the head doctor. He knew everything. If there was an emergency, he could treat humans or wolves. How was your day? Ron asked as he scratched his neck. Good. Yours? Just fine. Let's walk, he asked. It was a lunch break, so Delilah nodded at him. There was a small canteen where all the workers could go and eat. All the patients' food were also provided from the canteen. But Delilah and Ron took their plates and came out of the yard area of the hospital. They sat on the cement tools and had their lunch while talking. Delilah met Ron when she worked in the main hall as an assistant of Lily. Ron told her many things about the wolf's body system because patients needed to treat their wolf too. After that they became friends. I went to check on the main hall. I didn't see you, so I thought you took a leave, Ron said as he chewed his food. No, I never thought about taking a leave. I love to work. I have to earn money. You look good to me. Why do you want money? Nothing. I just want to work hard, she replied and focused on her food. Suddenly she felt someone's gaze on her. She looked up and saw no one was looking at her. Everyone was busy with their work. She shrugged her shoulders and kept eating. Ron also didn't ask more and kept eating quietly. When it was afternoon, she went back to the wooden house. She took a shower and changed her clothes. Yes, she bought a few dresses at a reasonable price because Connor told her the second day that he could give her advance from her salary and he would cut that when he gave her total money. She was okay with that and bought a few dresses. That day she didn't forget to buy something for Everett. She bought a shirt for him but didn't get a chance to give it to him. She started to cook dinner and thought that Everett would not come back before the late night as usual. But to her surprise, he came back earlier. He came just at the time when she finished her work in the kitchen. She saw him opening the door. He had a second key for himself to unlock the door anytime. You are back? She asked. Why? Can't I come back to my own house now? Or do you think it's your house and I need to take permission before coming? She was stunned. I didn't mean that, she whispered. She put the dishes on the table which were in her hands. Come, have dinner. I am not hungry. His voice was rude and she felt like crying. She did not know why this man affected her so much. Perhaps she never had a real family member who she could call family, siblings, or friends, that was why. She might have gotten attached to the man whom she called her master. She made her way to him. The food will be cold. Let's eat dinner, okay? She saw him after 3 days. The last time she saw her was when her sleep was broken in the middle of the night. He glared at her. She understood he was angry for some reason. She sighed. If you are angry, we can talk about it later. But don't pull out your anger on food. Let's go and eat, master. Then she did something she never dared to think. She held his hand and headed to the table. His hand was so warm that she almost did not want to let it go. She pulled out a chair. Please sit. He sat down and stared at her with his predator eyes. She served food on his plate. Where did you learn this dish? He asked. I ate that one day for lunch. I immediately grabbed all the ingredients in my mind and I understood how they made it. She replied excitedly as she sat on a chair. She started to fill her plate with food when he asked, ate with whom? With Ron. She paused and glanced at his face. With one of my friends. She did not want him to mistake her for Ron about anything. They were just friends. He did not say anything after that. She saw him eating with a cold face. She carefully watched him. He never glanced at her once. His cheeks' scratches faded a lot a few days ago. But they were back as if he knowingly did them. Her eyes went to his hair. How good he would look if he had a short haircut, she thought. She shook her head. What am I thinking? Since he did not force her physically, Delilah respected him a lot. He never took any advantage of her, never. Sometimes she thought he did not get attracted to her, so that was why. It was good for her. They were good just like now. They did not have any other relationship. He just let her stay in his house and she would pay him back anyhow someday. She just prayed one day she would be helpful to him. After dinner, Delilah washed the plates. She didn't let him wash his plate. She could work in his household since she was staying here with him. She went to their bedroom. She closed the door and was about to go to bed but stopped when she heard the bathroom door open. She turned around and saw Everett wiping his hair. Water ran down his upper body and ended up in the waistline of his black pants. He did not wear any shirt. His muscular body was visible in front of her eyes. His abs and muscles, as if he worked a lot so that it ended up in such a hot body. Delilah looked away immediately. "I took out a shirt for you." She stuttered and headed to the cabinet. Just as she tried to open the door of the cabinet, a hand stopped her by shoving the door back. She felt him coming closer behind her. She felt his whisper in her ear, "Who is he?" Loud growls, "Who is he?" Delilah felt his hot breath in her right ear. She closed her eyes when she smelled his cologne. It was like addictive to her. His other hand rested on the other side beside her head. Now he caged her with both of his hands. She slowly turned to him but gasped. His chest was in front of her face. He was very tall. She did not dare to look up at him. "Who is he?" His in-depth voice clutched her heart. "Who?" "The man you ate lunch with. You spent too much time with him, didn't you?" Delilah looked at him. His beautiful yet dangerous eyes were looking into her eyes. "He is my friend." "Friend?" he asked with a frown. "How does he know about Ron?" "We indeed had our lunches together. But how does he know? Or he guessed at the table at dinner time? No, I can't let him misunderstand me," she thought. "Yes, he is just my friend. We don't have any relation. Does he know where you live? Did you tell him everything?" He glared at her. She left a breath. She did not know how much time she was holding it. He was not thinking about her and Ron or any relationship between them. He was actually thinking about himself, his living, and the conditions he gave to her. Suddenly she felt sad and she did not know why. For some reason, she wanted to see his caring nature for her. "Stop thinking too much, Delilah. He is not your family," she told herself. She shook her head to him. "I didn't say anything to him. He is just a good doctor from whom I can learn many things so that I can work properly. After that, I can work hard so that I can earn more money." He narrowed his eyes. "Why do you want to earn more money? Is there not enough food in my house? Am I not letting you stay here?" She glanced around the room. That wooden-like palace was not her. "This house is yours, master. Not mine." He scoffed. "Some weeks ago you were begging to stay in my small house but now you are dreaming about the castle." Delilah shook her head. "Please, don't misunderstand me." He neared his face to her. She flinched as if she saw something in his eyes. "Women like you, I know really well." Delilah was startled. She was at a loss for words. What would she tell him? "Go to the bed and sleep," he ordered her and threw the towel from his neck on the floor. He headed to the door. She took the towel from the floor. When she saw him leaving the room, she ran to the stairs behind him. But he was surprisingly fast enough. He left the house. Where will he go this time? He did not even wear a shirt. It's a cold night. Delilah came back to the bedroom and sat on the bed. Did she become greedy? But she just wanted to earn money so that she did not have to trouble him more. She sighed and lay on the bed. She covered herself with the quilt. She tried to sleep but she could not sleep. Suddenly she heard the sound of something. She sat up. She paid attention to it. It was like someone is running. Did he shift and go for a run? She thought. She sat there for some time as she thought about the moment some time ago. A loud growl came to hear. Delilah's eyes widened. That growl! She heard this growl before when she met him, the beast. Delilah almost forgot about the beast these days. She stopped talking about the beast with Everett and others. She could enter and go out of the village without any fear now. She thought that dangerous creature would not hunt him. However, how could she hear his growl? The orange eyes with burning flames inside, she thought about it again. Her whole body was trembling. She glanced at the window. She did not dare to get out of the bed. Everett. She chanted only one name that came to mind. Everett. She heard another growl. Those growls came from very far and she could understand that. But the wooden house slightly shook with the sound of those growls. She dared to put her legs on the floor and walked to the window with a quivering body. She looked outside and saw the trees in the dark. Those trees were bigger than their house. She heard a growl again and that made her heart almost stop beating. What will I do now? He will kill me. Tears rolled down from her eyes. She was very afraid of him. She did not know why, every time she thought about his eyes, she only felt he would kill her sooner or later. I don't want to die. My mom told me to live long. She mumbled and slid beside the window. She was all alone in this world. There was no one she could call hers. Her stepmother blackmailed her so many times by saying that she would throw her to the beast and he would eat her alive. That thing set up in her mind. She did not want to die. Everett. She called in a lower tone as if he would listen to her. What if he killed Everett? She put her hands over her mouth. No, please, don't kill him. She whispered to herself. She did not hear any growls again. She thought the beast was gone. But she could not calm down. She did not know how much time she sat down on the floor until she heard the opening sound of the main door. She sniffed. She was so afraid to take a breath. She slowly stood up and headed to the bedroom's door. It was open, so she tried to hurry and close it. But a hand stopped her by grabbing the door. She stepped back and the man opened the door wide. Everett. She looked at him. She could not believe he was back and totally fine. She did not care about his body and hugged him. I thought he killed you. He'll not hurt you. I thought he killed you. She hid her face in his bare chest. She felt his warm body. How could a man's body still be so warm after coming from such a cold weather like this? She hugged him tightly. He did not hug her back, but she did not care. She was so scared that the beast would slay Everett. After a while, she felt a pair of arms wrapped around her back. He hugged her back. She felt like she was in the safest place in the world. Since he came back, she was not afraid of anything now. With him, she felt safe. She kept sobbing. Her nose brushed on his chest and she blushed. She came back to her senses. She moved a little and saw his chest pressing with her face. She felt embarrassed. She tried to move totally, but his hands were like made of iron. He did not move his arms a little bit. I am sorry, she said and sobbed again. Why? His raspy voice gave her chills. For this. She was talking about the hug. His chest was soaked with her tears. She talked about that too. When she saw he did not let her move, she rested her head on his chest again. She tried to calm herself. She felt him bent down. He lifted her in his arms. She gasped. She looked at his cold face. He did not look at her. He went to the bed and laid her down on the bed. He covered her with the quilt and said, "Sleep." Are you going outside again? She asked. No. She felt relieved. She saw him wearing a shirt and coming back to the bed. He lay on his side and closed his eyes. She turned to his side and looked at him. In her hazardous situation she always remembered him, he always saved her too. Just like tonight. She slept with a small smile on her face. The next day was the weekend. Delilah woke up late. She stood up and freshened up. She went downstairs and was shocked. Everett was at home and his friends came to visit him. "Hi, Delilah." Connor waved at Delilah. Delilah smiled at him and went to the kitchen. "You two look close," Luke said. "She works under me." "We know that, but when did you become so friendly with Omegas?" Connor glanced at Everett and then glared at Luke. "Do you want to die?" "Nonetheless, someone was in a killing mood last night," Jack said. Connor and Luke laughed but stopped when they saw Delilah come with a tray of glasses full of water. "Please wait for 10 minutes. I am cooking lunch." "What lunch?" "We came with all the preparations. We thought you two would not wake up the whole day, so I came with lunch boxes from our canteen," Connor said to Delilah. Delilah was confused. "We would not wake up the whole day. Why?" she thought. "Stop using your mind and take out some plates," Everett said coldly. Then he glared at Connor, who avoided his gaze smartly. Delilah took some plates and told them to have lunch at the table. They sat together and told Delilah to sit with them too. Delilah felt awkward since they were not her but Everett's friends. She got along with Connor because he was the head doctor and she met him daily. But the other two were still strangers to her. "We heard you cook well," Luke asked. "Me? Yeah, you," Jack replied. "Who told you?" "Of course I did," Connor replied. "When will you cook for us?" Luke asked. "I can cook dinner for you all, if you are here for a long time," she replied with a lower tone. "Ask your master if he let us stay at night," Jack said. Delilah glanced at Everett and blushed. She remembered last night. He lifted her in his arms. It was something she never thought about. He did this when he agreed to let her stay in his home. She was sick that night and he took her in his arms. Her cheeks became reddened. "What happened to you? Do you have a fever?" Connor asked. She felt Everett's gaze. "No. I am fine," she replied to Connor. After lunch, Delilah went back to the bedroom and gave the four friends privacy. She came down in the afternoon time. Till then she rested in the bedroom. She saw they were not in the house. But their jackets were there. Everett was also not there. She cooked dinner for 5 people. She tried her best to cook well. As if their opinions mattered in her life. She arranged the table and waited for them to come. They came back soon and smelled the aroma of food. All of them had their dinner and praised Delilah for cooking delicious food. She thanked them. 3 of them took their leave and left the house. Delilah washed the dishes. She cleaned the kitchen as well. She liked to work as if it was her own home. Everett went upstairs and Delilah sat on the couch for some time as she tried to memorize a few ointments as different treatments. She glanced upstairs. She was too shy to go there. But she headed upstairs. When she entered the bedroom she saw him sleeping. She closed the door and lay down on her side. She stared at him. He never took the initiative to talk to her. He never tried to do that. It was her who always troubled him. "I was so afraid last night, I thought that beast would kill you. I thought he was coming to hurt me," she mumbled alone as she looked at his face. She thought he was sleeping since he came to the bedroom to sleep earlier tonight. But she saw him parting his lips. He replied to her without opening his eyes, "He will not hurt you until you forget that you are my slave and try to escape from me. Village fair, he will not hurt you until you forget that you are my slave and try to escape from me." Delilah was bewildered. The fear of death spread in her heart. "What do you mean?" she asked as she moved a little bit towards him. "Just don't forget who you are now. Just because you are working outside, that doesn't mean you will start to dream about building a home outside." He replied and opened his eyes. He turned his head to her. The room was dark. But they could see each other's faces. Their eyes met. "I don't understand what you are saying," she whispered. His eyes scanned her face as if his eyes were caressing her face. She averted his dark eyes. "Master, don't go outside at night. Don't come late. I almost died last night." He did not reply to her. She glanced at him. Moonlight fell on their faces. The way moonlight glittered on his face, she wanted to stroke his cheeks. "Master," when he did not answer, she continued, "What happened to your cheeks?" His dark eyes became colder. She became frightened. So she closed her eyes tightly like a child. She heard him, "Why are you so afraid of him? Did he ever hurt you?" She shook her head and hid her head in the quilt. "I saw him, he was angry at me that I came to his forest." "But wait." She suddenly uncovered her head and looked at him. "You are also living here. Your friends also come here, so why is he after me?" "He is not after you. You are just obsessed with him. Stop talking about him. If you are here with me, he will never hurt you." His face was grim. She nodded her head. Her eyes brightened up. She smiled at him as if he was her angel. "Thank you, Everett." She whispered his name. They were lying in the same bed, but he never tried to take advantage of her. She felt secure with him. If there was someone else, they would never let her live the peaceful life she was living right now. He stared at her. She felt she just saw his eyes become softened for a second, but again it changed like before. He nodded and turned around. Delilah smiled at him. "Good night, Master." The next day Delilah went to work on time. She met Ron, but she maintained a distance from him since Everett did not like her talk with other men. Does he really not like it? Or am I thinking too much? He is just concerned about his living. Delilah saw a few patients coming from other villages. This village really had good doctors, and they had the potions too. The potion was a kind of tonic made by witches. Some potions were made from werewolves' blood too. When anyone's wolf needed any treatment, only that time doctors used potions as the cure for their illness. The village was big and the hospital was a little far from the forest. Yet it was a long way road too. When Delilah was done with her work, all the nurses were talking about going somewhere. "Miss Winters, I am leaving now." Delilah let Lily know. "Wait a minute, Delilah." Lily stopped her. "Yes. All the nurses are going to a fair." "Fair?" "Yeah, our village is having a village fair today. It looked good at night. You should join them." "Me?" Delilah pointed a finger at her. "Yes, why? You said your house is near, right?" Lily asked. Connor told others that Delilah's house was somewhere close to the hospital. So everyone would not dare or follow her to the forest. "Yeah, but no, but I am also going there." "You are coming, that's it." Lily ordered her. Lily was very impressed with Delilah's work. Since Delilah was a nurse under her, she would treat her to dinner tonight. On the other hand, Delilah was nervous. They did not know where she lived. If she denied them, what if they wanted to ask to go home with her and ask permission from her family? Okay. She agreed and Lily smiled at her. Delilah tried to think what she would do. She could not go with them because Everett told her not to come home late. She had to go back before the sky became dark. An idea popped into her head. She headed to the head doctor's office. Connor must help me with this. He would tell Miss Winters that I have to go back home early. She will listen to her. Delilah thought. She knocked on the door. No one opened the door, nor did anyone tell her to come inside. Someone patted her shoulder. She turned around and saw Ron. Dr. Connor is not here. Where is he, Ron? Who knows? Maybe he has something at home, so he did not come to the hospital today. Oh. She mumbled. Are you okay? Ron asked as he watched her worried face. Yeah. I am okay. Do you want to share? Delilah shook her head. When will you leave, Ron? I was just leaving. Oh. Then bye. Ron was about to leave but Lily called him. She also invited Ron to go to the fair. At first, Ron did not want to go and said he had some work, but when he heard Delilah was also going, he agreed with Lily. After a few minutes, when Lily was done with her work, they started to walk to the fair. The fair is near, right? She asked Lily. Don't worry. If it takes time, I will drop you home at night. Ron assured her. But Delilah was in conflict. She did not want to make Everett angry. He was giving her freedom to work, how could she break his one rule? And it was good for her own to go back early. They reached the village fair, which was not so far from the village hospital. But from the forest side, a little bit. When Delilah saw the decorations of the fair, she forgot about the worry and started to see them. She never attended any village fair before, nor did her step-parents let her go anywhere from the house. She remembered she went with her parents to an event like this fair when she was 7. Her mother and father both were alive at that time. Memories about her parents made her enjoy the fair. All the girls who were nurses looked pretty mature, they were very confident about their clothing. Delilah realized only she was in very simple clothes and others were in somehow well-designed clothes. Everyone planned to go there since they all were villagers, but when Lily offered to take them with her, they were delighted because it was a treat. It was evening time. She walked and saw different types of stalls with lots of clothes and jewelry. She was amazed by the different kinds of food collections in the stalls. It is a small village but its fair is so amazing. She murmured. Why are you talking like this is not your village? Don't you know our villagers are not poor? Ron asked with confusion. No, I didn't mean that. I am just amazed. She replied with an awkward smile. For once Delilah thought if she could come here with Everett. Did he ever come to a place like this? She thought. Delilah remembered about the time. I think I should go back now. She said to Lily. Where are you going? I am going to give you all a treat. Treat? Ron was surprised. Well, yet. How come you give us treats and I would not do anything? Let me pay half. Lily tried to convince but Ron requested her so she agreed. But Delilah shook her head. I have to go back. It's late. Didn't I tell you I will drop you? Ron asked. Yeah, just stay for a while. Let's go to a food stall. Other nurses tried to convince her. Delilah could not refuse them. She nervously went with them to a food stall. She was worried that Everett would be angry with her, but most of the time he was not at home at this time. However, Delilah was more fearful of how she would go alone in the forest in the dark. She tried to eat fast. Suddenly she felt dizzy. She frowned. She tried to calm herself, but her heartbeat was racing fast and she was feeling hot. So hot. She stood up immediately. "What happened, Delilah?" Ron asked. Lily and others looked at her. "I have to go right now." "Wait, I am coming with you." "No." Ron and others looked at her with confusion. "I mean, I am sorry, but my family will get angry with me. I have to go now." "Don't worry about me. My home is close. I can go by myself." Ron looked at her for some time. "Are you sure?" "Yeah." He nodded. Delilah said bye to everyone and came out of the food stall. She ran out of the village fair while grabbing her necklace. She headed to the forest side. "What will I do now? I am in my heat." Fierce orange eyes. "What will I do now? I am in my heat." She was lucky to have the necklace. She was an Omega, and in her heat her pheromones would have spread everywhere if she did not wear that necklace. It enclosed her scent from others. "Hey! Where are you going?" Delilah turned around and saw an old lady coming towards her. There were a few boxes in the lady's hands. She understood that the lady was a saleswoman going back to her home. But it was a remote area. "Grandma, I am in a hurry." "What are you saying? You are going to a path that our villagers cannot enter." Delilah frowned. "What do you mean? Don't you know it's taboo for us to go to this forest? It's not under our kingdom." "What kingdom? What are you saying, Grandma? Please let me go. I can't stay anymore." Delilah felt her body start to get weaker. She made her way to the forest. The lady stopped her by grabbing her hand. "Young girl! Don't act bold. You are very young and beautiful. You can't go inside the forest. What if the beast will have a desire for you? What if, after you, he will fancy our village's other young girls? We cannot take a risk. You can't go there." Delilah could not proceed with the fact. How would the beast fancy her? Is he young? The lady came closer and spoke with a trembling tone. "He is not old. His howl is something we can talk about. He is a lonely beast. It had been a very long time since he stopped howling. Otherwise, every night we used to hear his howling before. The howls of his sorrow." Delilah felt strange. "Isn't he dangerous?" "Of course, he is. This forest is his kingdom. He is the king there. Anyone can enter the forest with their foolishness, but who will get out of his forest, that is his decision. He doesn't like it if someone intrudes on his privacy." Delilah was confused. Then how could that old man come to the forest? Then again, what about the woodcutters? Suddenly she remembered the boundary. Was the boundary? She shook her head. Then how can I be living there without his permission? What about Everett and his friends? Do they know him? It reminded her of what Everett told her. If she did not leave him, the beast would never hurt her. Every time she heard about the beast she memorized his scary eyes. "Grandma, is he ugly? His eyes are dangerous, right? No one knows what he looks like, he never came out. Someone says he is living there for 10 years, someone says he is living there for 20 years. No one defined his features. But always remember that he is a very harmful creature. He is different from us, different from our rank. Even the king declared not to disturb him. If he gets mad at us, the king cannot help us. Delilah's body was getting hot. She could not listen more to the lady. Her brain was not working anymore. She requested the old lady, "Grandma, thanks. I will not go there." The old lady nodded. Delilah pretended that she would go somewhere else, but when she saw the lady was gone on the local path, she ran directly to the forest. She began to walk while biting her lips. The darkness was everywhere. She could feel the wind blowing and she could smell the trees. The clouds were covering the moon. There was no moonlight in the forest to show the path like before. Her mind was full of the things that the lady had just told her. She was perplexed about where she was going. Where am I going? Is it the right path? She tried to find her way to the wooden house. She forgot the way in the dark. All the way looked the same route to her. The sound of the wind made some scary noises as if telling her not to go forward. The path was too long for her weak body. At every step, she felt sluggish. A sharp pain began to spread in her lower abdomen. She clutched her clothes and tried to calm herself. With heavy legs, she tried to run, but her necklace tugged as she collided with a low tree branch. The chain of the necklace broke and fell somewhere. She did not have time to search for that. She kept trying to find her way. I have lost the way back. She thought and cried in pain. The heat was a thing that made any female wolf helpless. All they wanted was to have a mate to be mated with. They wanted to make love with them. Her mind was lost and desire was the sole concern roaming around her head. She felt wet between her legs. When she came to stay in the forest, she almost forgot she was a werewolf. She forgot that she had a wolf too who had some desire and could have heat anytime. She felt a cold breeze and heard a loud growl that caused her steps to halt. He is here. Delilah started to run for her life. Her heat could not stop her from running. He will kill me. Run, Delilah, run. She tried to convince herself. Her wolf became so fragile because of the heat. She wanted warmth, any alpha's warmth or any beta's warmth, or any male werewolf's warmth. Delilah huffed and tried to take a deep breath. However, she heard another growl. Everett. She could not help but screamed Everett's name. He was the one who always came to help her. She did not know how he could save her from the beast and the heat, but she believed that he would come for her. With all her force, she attempted to turn to change her route but bumped into someone. The darkness stopped her from looking at anything. She tried to look up and paused. As if someone grabbed her heart and twisted it. Fear ran all over her body. In the dark cold night, she again met the creature whom everyone frightened the most. His fierce orange eyes were glowing like flames. She took a step back. Those eyes were glaring at her and he growled at her. "Ah!" Blindfold, her body shuddered with fear as she realized who was standing in front of her. She started to shake her head and felt scared. "Please don't kill me, please let me go." As if he didn't want to hear her at all, he slowly stepped towards her. She tried to see his face but could not see him at all in the darkness except his glowing eyes. She tried to run away. She cursed herself for coming here too late. She should not have been so late. "I am sorry, Everett. I should have listened to you. You told me to come back home before the evening. I didn't listen to you. Please help me from the beast. I will always listen to you, I promise." She whispered to herself. She kept running until she heard, "How long will you run like that?" She stopped and turned to the side where the voice was coming from. She saw a silhouette leaning against a tree. A bright smile scrambled on her lips. It was Everett's voice. She did not think much and hugged the man. "Everett! I am sorry. She forgot to call him master. She forgot what relationship they had. They were not that close to hugging each other all the time. The moment she hugged him, she felt relaxed. "Where is your necklace?" His voice was so deep that it made her tremble inside. "I lost that," she uttered. She nuzzled her nose to his chest. She was in her heat and the lust inside her arose more when she felt his bare body. Her hands started to roam his bare back but were caught by him. She got back to her senses. She moved back. "I am in my let's go." He lifted her in his arms and turned to another side. She wrapped her hands around his neck as she tried to get close to him. "He almost killed me today," she whispered to him. "If he wanted, he would have killed you already. You saved me. I am no one to save you." "No." She wanted to talk more but her body and mind did not listen to her, as if she was losing her consciousness and going into a maze of lust. She rested her head on his chest. "I am feeling pain, master." Everett stopped for a second, his grip around her body tightened. He continued walking again. A few minutes later, they went back to the wooden house. She felt relieved. He went to the bedroom and lay her on the bed. She grabbed his hand and looked at him. "Master, are you mad at me?" Delilah did not know her face and voice were seductive. She did not know how much they were affecting the other. "Stop talking and take a nap." "Where are you going?" "Outside." "No, master." "Don't go." "I don't want to be alone." She begged and sat up. Looking at his cold face, she immediately left his hand. "Where were you all this time?" he asked while glaring at her. She touched her lower abdomen and whined. She fell on the bed and moaned in pain. "Ah! Master, please help me." Delilah could not regulate herself. She wanted to release herself. Her sweet slick released pheromones, which made Everett unable to control himself. He tightened his fists. She looked at him with a pair of glossy eyes. Her lips were begging him to hover over her. "Please." Delilah did not know what she was saying. She did not have that in mind right now. All she wanted was him to make love to her. He went close to her face and muttered, "You will regret it." She shook and wrapped her hands around his neck. "I won't." He smirked at her. "Silly girl, once I enter inside you, you will be my slave forever." "I am already your slave, master." "Not like that. After this, you will be mine forever." "Make me yours, master." She begged and tried to caress his cheeks. But before that, he grabbed her hands. He took off his belt and tied her hands with it, then pinned them over her head. "Never dare to touch my face." He stood up and took out a blindfold from his side of the cabinet. Delilah's sight became dark when he blindfolded her. "Master, what is this? You are not allowed to see me." "Master," she moaned when she felt his hands on her dress. SSSHH in the blink of a second, he ripped her clothes. His lips were leaving traces on her body. Delilah could not help but moan loudly. She was a pure virgin. She had never gotten close to any boy before. She did not know what the feelings of those things were. He was giving her pleasure and she was taking it fully. When his fingers touched her down she started to cry. "Master, please." "As you wish." "Ah!" She moaned in pleasure. So was it the feeling she wanted to feel in her heat? It was an immense pleasure. "Don't dare to break my rules again," he warned. She did not pay attention to his words. She was lost in the pleasure he was giving her. She was behaving as if she was not her, as if she had become someone else tonight. She wanted to touch him. She wanted to see him. But her blindfold did not allow her to see him. That was why she could not see while observing her with his glowing orange eyes. He is at home, Everett. He was the beast of this forest. The beast everyone was afraid of, the beast Delilah always tried to run away from in fear. He was caressing her body with his lustful eyes. She wanted that, although he warned her. It was she who wanted to get harmed by him, destroyed by him fully. Otherwise, he was controlling and resisting his inner beast all these times. Both of his cheeks were burning. Those scratches on his cheeks were not any simple scratches. Every time his wolf took over him, like a curse, they burned. Whoever saw him, either lost their consciousness or lost humanity. Some of them even got the courage and tried to kill him, but little did they know, he was not a simple alpha or other ranks like them, but a beast, a Lekan. His power and strength were unmatchable. He was enough to rule all the packs alone. But he had his own reasons for living in the forest. No one knew how long he had been staying there or how long he would stay there. However, it was not a rumor but a reality that he did not like when anyone entered his forest. It was indeed his kingdom and he was the beast of that forest. When Delilah woke up, she was all alone in the bedroom. She sat up but moaned in pain. Her whole body was hurting as if someone had beaten her all night. Delilah tried to rest her back against the headrest but gasped when she saw the quilt move from her upper body. Her chest was full of red marks. Oh no! She remembered what happened last night. She hid her face with both of her hands. No, no. What will he think about me? What did I do? How could I be so shameless? She peeked at her body between the free space of her fingers and then groaned. What will I do now? She cursed herself for talking like that with Everett shamelessly. He must think of me as a brazen woman. She remembered how he tied her hand and blindfolded her. After making love to her, he removed the blindfold. She was too tired to say anything to him and fell asleep. But she saw his cold face before sleeping. She took the bed's support to get out of the bed. She could still feel his touches on her body. The way his lips kissed her body. Her eyes widened and she shook her head. What am I thinking? Stop, stop. She told herself as she felt wet down there. She took a shower. The hot bath gave her body soothing feelings. It was an amazing fact that house was full of luxury. She did not have to think about electricity. Solar power was giving them much help. Delilah looked down at her body. She noticed those love bites. She blushed thinking about it. She finally realized why she was begging him to help her. Because she actually wanted him. The way he always protected her, let her stay at his house, which she called home, and did not do anything inappropriate until she asked for it, he was really a gentleman. He was not like those men who wanted to buy her for one night. She did not become a tool. She had a man now. She smiled and bit her lower lip while thinking about him. After taking a bath, she looked at the mirror and stroked the traces. Did he like her body? Otherwise, why would he kiss her body? An impulsive feeling of self-consciousness rose in her heart. She wore a dress which was long. Her every dress was long. She came out of the bathroom. Her eyes fell on her torn dress and inner wear. She cleaned the room. The bed sheets with blood made her blush. She changed the bed sheet and tried to hide that. She would clean it when she went to the bathroom again. While wiping her hair, she was thinking about how she would face him today. Her wrists were swollen. He tied them hard last night. She glanced outside and realized it was noon. Wait. I missed my shift today. She hurriedly ran downstairs, but she almost flipped when she saw Connor sitting on the couch. Everett was sitting opposite him. Connor looked at Delilah. "Hi hi," she replied as she waved awkwardly. She was thankful to the moon goddess that she was wearing a modest dress. Only her collarbone and neck were revealed, but her hair was doing well in covering them. "I was shocked when I saw my punctual nurse was not in the hospital. But then I came here and found that you are sick." "Sick?" She was confused. "Well, Everett told me to give you leave for 2 days." "Really?" She glanced at Everett, who did not give a short glance at her. "Yet. I came with some fruits today. You need to eat more nutrition. You have to get more strength, you know." Delilah frowned. Did Everett tell him everything? She blushed and went to the kitchen. She saw the basket of fruits. She cut some fruits and placed them on a tray. She looked at Everett, who was talking with Connor. She went in front of them and placed the tray on the tea table. "Have some." Connor smiled at her. He took a piece of an apple and stood up. "Thank you." "Well, I am leaving now." Delilah saw Connor leaving the house. She turned to Everett. Her cheeks turned red. She could not believe she had done everything with this man. Her heartbeat was running fast just looking at him. She took a deep breath. Everett was sitting while staring at the fruits. Delilah felt bad that he was at home, but she woke up late. She did not even make breakfast. He must be starving. "Please have some. I woke up late today, so I am going to make lunch for us," she said, and was about to go, but Everett stopped her by grabbing her wrist. "Wait. Why is he alone?" "Wait." Delilah looked down at his hand, which was grabbing her wrist. "Yes?" she asked shyly. He stood up. She did not look at him but looked at the floor while pushing her hair strands behind her hair. She was actually nervous. She was not in her senses last night. But she remembered everything in the morning. He made her sit down on the couch and went somewhere. She looked perplexed. Where was he going? He came back with a box from the kitchen. He took a box and put out an ointment, then gave it to her. She took the ointment. She realized it was the ointment for bruises on the skin. She thanked him. He nodded and left the house. She stared at his back when he left. Where does he go? He likes to stay out all the time. She mumbled and pouted. She was happy that he did not raise last night's matter. It would have felt awkward to talk about that. She bit on some fruit and stood up. She moved to the kitchen while limping. She placed food on the table and went to the door. She opened the door and felt the fresh air. She smiled and closed her eyes to feel it for some time. Suddenly the old lady's words and the orange eyes came across her mind. She opened her eyes immediately. How could she forget that? She shook her thoughts. No, I have a man now. He will always protect me from anything, she told herself and went outside. Everett. She called him. He was nowhere to be seen. She closed the door behind her. She started to walk to find him. It was daytime, the beast would not come out now. She called Everett and started to search for him. After a few minutes, she stopped. She did not go far when she saw the route was the other way from what she knew. She did not want to lose her path again, so she turned around. However, she heard the sound of a beating. She paused and turned to that side. She walked to that side while clutching her dress. What is happening? Where is the sound coming from? She stopped when she saw a little far. Everett was punching a very big tree. His hands were bleeding but he kept punching it as if he was angry and punching someone. Delilah's eyes widened. She ran to him. Everett, he did not stop punching. "What are you doing here?" he asked her without looking at her. His face looked grim. "Everett," she paused when he glared at her. "Master, stop punching the tree. Your hand." She looked closely and saw there was almost a hole where he was punching, as if he had punched the tree so many times before that it made a hole. "Go back." "No, your hands are bleeding." When she saw he did not stop punching, she tried to stop him by grabbing his wrist, but he was very angry. When he felt her touch, he angrily charged at her, but his fist paused just in front of her face. She was startled and closed her eyes tightly. She was shaking with fear. He stared at her frightened face and looked away from her. He put down his fist and asked, "What do you want?" She opened her eyes slowly. She felt relaxed when she saw him calming down. "Master, let's go back, okay? Look at your hands. You need to bandage them." "I don't need it. Just go back. Please listen to me. Can't you just mind your own business?" he yelled at her. She flinched at his yell. She looked at him with her parted lips. She bit her lip as she tried to stop her tears. She cared about him, that was why she came to stop him. She did not have any other intention. "Just go back. Leave me alone. Can't you understand why I always leave my own house? It's because of you. I need privacy, but you intervened in my privacy. Just go now. I left the whole house for you, now why did you again come to disturb me?" His eyes were hurting her the most, more than his yelling. Didn't they become close after last night? Why was he reacting like that? Was he angry because she asked him to do that with her? She averted her gaze from his furious eyes, which gave her a chill. Her eyes fell on his knuckles. She blinked a few times to get the tears away from her eyes. She felt hurt because of his pain. She did not know why, but she felt hurt for him. A strange distress rushed to her and jabbed her heart. She shook her head. No, she could not leave him alone in that state. He helped her, and always came to save her. How could she leave him? This man was too arrogant to go back with her to treat his hands. So she had to do something right then. She looked around and could not find anything. Her long dress caught her attention and she thought of an idea. Her dress was a full-sleeve dress. She pushed her hair behind and tore one of the sleeves. "What are you doing?" he frowned. She did not reply to him but ripped the sleeve into 2 pieces of clothing. Then she grabbed his right hand. He became furious. "Didn't I tell you to leave from here?" She looked up at him. "Can you please calm down and let me do what I am doing?" There was a slight bit of irritation in her voice. She was annoyed by his behavior. Why was he giving pain to himself? She wrapped the cloth in his knuckles. Then she took his other hand and did the same. She did not see how his eyes turned orange when she was bandaging his hands. When she looked up after finishing, his dark black eyes were glaring at her. "Done." He was silent. She felt anxious. She kept looking into his eyes. The way he was staring at her, it felt like he could see her soul. She felt in front of him though she was in her full clothes. So many questions popped into her head for him. How is he living here alone? Where is his family? Why did he kill his own mate? Connection with the beast. Her eyes moved from his eyes and fell on his cheeks. She narrowed her eyes. Those scratches looked like fresh wounds. She lifted up her hand to touch his cheek. But he grabbed her hand. "Have you forgotten what I warned you last night? She hissed in pain. She felt a pain in her wrist. He left her hand. He was about to turn to the other side but stopped when he saw her neck and collarbone. He left so many traces there. Her sleeveless hand was full of hickeys as if some hungry beast sucked her skin alive. He tightened his fist, thinking about last night. She noticed his reaction and hid her neck with her hair. He closed his eyes and sighed. I am going back. She mumbled and went to the way from where she just came. She began to walk but felt him behind her. She turned her head and saw him following her. She blushed and focused on her way. Was he concerned about her? They went back home. Let's have lunch, Delilah said and headed to the table. First go and change your dress. Hey! I won't repeat myself. Delilah realized her dress was torn up. She nodded and went upstairs. His gaze was on her until she entered the bedroom. Her limping did not go unnoticed by him. Delilah changed her clothes and came downstairs. She saw him sitting on a chair at the table. She went to the sink to wash her hands and sat in a chair beside him. He was seated in the head chair, of course. She served food on his plate and looked at his wounded hands. How will he eat with them? She thought. She bit her lips and glanced at him. He raised a brow as if asking her why she was not giving the plate. She used a spoon to take the food from the plate and raised the spoon toward his mouth. He frowned. What are you doing? Both your hands are wounded. How can you eat? So I am helping you. I can eat my own, he said. She put down the spoon and slowly pushed his plate at him. She wanted to hit her head. How could she think that? She should have understood how much stubborn he was. Be careful. She alarmed him when he was about to grab the spoon. What am I? 5. No, your wound. Hang on, you should see a doctor. What if you get an infection because of it? We should go to the village hospital. He glared at her. Just because I agreed last night to have with you, that doesn't mean you will think of yourself as my girlfriend or mate. Just mind your own business. Leave me alone in my own situations. She was stunned by his words. She felt twisted in her heart. She nodded her head. Accept my apology, master. She replied and lowered her head. As if he lost his appetite, he stood up. I am leaving now. Don't go out at night. No one will trouble you. I will come back late, he said and left the house. Tears streamed down her eyes. She looked at his plate, he did not even eat anything. She did not know what to say. His words hurt her. She thought it was a thing last night. They were very close, together. They did something which she had never done with anyone else before. She was afraid to give herself to anyone. That was why she ran away from her home. However, she felt safe with him and she wanted only him last night. Was it wrong to think about him like that? Didn't he say she would become his, once he did that with her? She looked down at her chest, her belly, her legs over the dress, she could feel him everywhere. How could he say just like that? It was true that she was not his mate or girlfriend. Did he mean that he had a girlfriend? What about her then? I am a slave. He called me a slave last night. Will I always be his slave? She wiped her tears and put the food back in the kitchen. She was not in the mood to eat anything. She went to the bedroom and tried to sleep for a while. Connor told her that she had a leave for 2 days. What would she do in these 2 days? She would go to the hospital the next day. Otherwise, she would feel alone. All of her life, she only had to live alone. She was depressed living like that. She wanted a companion to live her life with. She wanted only one man who would be with her forever. She did not want to go to someone else's arm but wanted to stay in only one man's heart. It was Everett's heart. She wanted to take a place in his heart now. She woke up in the afternoon. As usual, alone in the whole house. When it was late at night, she looked outside while standing beside the window, thinking about so many things. She heard the sound of the main door downstairs. Everett entered the bedroom. He saw her but did not say anything to her. He went to the bathroom and came after taking a shower. He saw her still standing beside the window. She looked worried. Her side face was telling that she was thinking something intense. He headed to the bed and asked, "You haven't slept yet? I have something to ask you." He lay on the bed and replied, "Do you think I am answerable to you?" Delilah shook her head. "I am your mere slave, you are not answerable to me." His eyes darkened. "Are you trying to provoke me by mocking me like this?" "What did I say to provoke you? Stop playing with words. Come to the point." Delilah took a deep breath and turned around. She looked into his eyes and asked, "What is your connection with the beast? How do you know him? How can you live here in his kingdom without having any problems? What is your rank? What is your connection with the beast? How do you know him? How can you live here in his kingdom without having any problems?" Everett stared at Delilah. She could see his eyes turned grimace and he tightened his jaw. Did he retain himself from something? Would he hit her? She held her breath when he got down from the bed. He moved toward her. His wet hair gave him a hot look. He looked like a Greek god. Fair skin with black hair, and his cloth was tight on his muscles. He stood in front of her. She lowered her head. "Tell me one thing. Why are you keep talking about a man who you don't even know?" "Hey!" She looked up at him. He came close to her and she stepped back. Her back met the wall behind her, beside the window. "Why are you so interested in knowing about him?" She tried to understand his questions. He was right. In those few weeks, no matter how much she tried to forget, there was something that pulled her attention to the beast. She did not know him and he did not even hurt her once. Why didn't he hurt her? She remembered about the old lady. She heard about him again and again. It was not her fault but his fault. He always made her scared of him. She met him last night too. Why did she keep meeting him, hearing his growls? "I am not interested in him. I. She was at a loss for words. Why was she asking about him? She glanced at Everett. He was waiting for her answer. "I don't know," she whispered. He stepped back and switched off the light. He stood beside the bed. "Just go to bed. Don't think too much." He was about to get on the bed but she ran to him and held his hand. "But you didn't tell me about yourself." In the dark, she could not see his expression. But she could see him balling his fist. "Leave my hand." He gritted his teeth. She looked down at her hand though it was dark yet through the moonlight she could see it. She pouted her lips. Was he thinking she was dirty? Why did he always react like that whenever she touched him? Did he feel disgusted when he touched me and saw my body? "Are you feeling that I am dirty?" She could not help but ask. He turned to her all of a sudden and pushed her onto the bed. He got on top of her. It happened so fast that she could not get time to think. She felt his breath on her ear. Her fast heartbeat was audible to him. "Why do you want to know me? Do you have another plan in your mind?" he asked with a deep voice. She gasped when he bit her earlobe. His hands were placed on both of the sides of her waist. What plan would I have? She asked with a shaken tone. She felt him putting a little weight on her body. She wanted to hug him like that. She wanted to ask him if he would be her life companion. She wanted to know him more, about him, his life, his work, and his family. You know better than me, he whispered in her ear. She took that chance and rested her hands on his shoulders. His body stiffened. Move your hands. Why? She asked. He moved his face a little and glared at her. Move your hands. She was startled and slowly removed her hands from him. What if you saw the beast? What will you say to him since you are only thinking about him all day long? No, I don't think about him. From the day I came here, it's because of him that I am stuck in this forest. He frowned. He stuck you here. He then tilted his head. How? If he was not that dangerous, everyone would easily come and go out of the village. I could have found the way to the village and I did not have to disturb you either. His face became gloomy. So now you are regretting coming to me? Delilah realized what she had just said. She was so agitated that she wanted to put the blame on the beast but ended up saying things like that. It was true that she did not want to live alone, but she wanted to live with Everett too. Would he ever go out of this forest with her? No, I don't regret it. He scoffed. Even if you regret it, I don't care. You cannot go back to your words. I am not saying that. I just want to know you. Me? Yes. Why? I am curious. She was happy that she could talk to him so closely. They had never had a long conversation before. It felt very intimating. Where is your family? She asked. Dead. Hey. I have no family. He replied and moved away from her body. How can you live here alone? He lay on his side and closed his eyes. Why can't I live? The beast, he doesn't mind me. Really? You know him? He hummed without opening his eyes. How is he looking? Very ugly. Is he young? Why? Will you go for him? He opened his eyes and turned to her. Delilah gulped when she heard that. Never. He smirked at her reaction. Stop thinking and talking about him. He is sleeping somewhere, let him sleep. If you offend him, I cannot save you this time. Delilah nervously replied, I believe you will save me from him. Everett did not reply to her for a moment as if he was thinking something. Okay, get it. Did he mock her that he would not save her next time? Everett Master. He reminded her. Oh sorry, Master. Another thing. She thought for a few minutes about asking another question. She wanted to ask about his mate, but what if he got angry after hearing her? Or what if he lied to her? How could a man living in the woods kill his own mate and stay alone forever? Another fact came to her mind and she asked with a curious tone. What is your rank? Miss Winters, what is your rank? She waited for his reply but never got it. She turned her head to his face and saw his closing eyes. Are you asleep? She asked. How could a sleeping person answer her? She sighed and tried to sleep too. Tonight they built a step forward. They talked simply for a long time. He had never answered her like that before. Today his mood might be really good. She slept with a smile on her face. After some time, the man beside him opened his orange eyes. Those eyes were empty. Everett stared at the ceiling blankly for a long time. She just asked about his rank. His rank? He was a mysterious creature that others were afraid of. He was full of curses. What would happen if she got to know about him? He did not let others stay in his forest. Letting them enter his house was something impossible. This girl bumped into him that night for the first time and he let her go. He let her stay alive because she looked frightened yet hopeless. He felt that she had nowhere to go, and had no one, just like him. So, for the first time, he felt empathy for someone, and that was her. He wanted to show his real self to her, but he knew she would be traumatized. So he hid his own self from her. If any time he needed to shift in front of her, she would faint after seeing his giant wolf, just like she always fainted whenever she saw his eyes. He did not have any feelings for her. He was a man of stone. He had his own people. He did not have time to think about women. He had his own objectives. He did not have time for showing sympathy to anyone. He let her stay here and she could stay here. But rather than that, she could not expect more from him. She was just his slave. But he never tried to take advantage of her because he was not like others. She gave him her first time, she showed him her trust, it was a thing that grabbed his mind. However, he did not want to get used to anyone. That was why he stayed out of the house most of the time. He was a lone creature. How could he let others intervene in his life? He would never like to do that. Delilah woke up early. But shockingly, Everett was still sleeping in the bed. Delilah did not disturb him and freshened up. She dressed up and went to make breakfast. She had her breakfast without calling Everett. When she was moving to the door, she heard from behind, "Where are you going?" She turned around. "Good morning, Master." She smiled at him, thinking about last night's healthy conversation. "Where?" "Oh, I am going to the hospital." She saw him furrowing his brows. "I know Connor gave me 2 days of leave. But others would start to say something bad about how I can just get so many leaves in 1 month. I am good now anyway. So don't worry." She could not say to him that she would feel bored once he left the house for the whole day. He stared at her. "Is he doubting me?" she thought. "Master, I made breakfast for you. You can have it." Everett did not reply and went back to the bedroom. "Will he stay at home today? Should I cancel my plan?" She shook her head. "No, he will go out if I stay. He himself told me that he did not stay at his own home because of me, I should give him some privacy. This is his home, after all." She closed the main door and headed to the way of the village. She was somehow feeling fresh. She was not feeling scared about anyone today. She felt the weather and walked happily. Once she reached the hospital, Miss Winters asked her what happened to her and why she didn't come to the hospital. "I was a little sick. That was why I could not come." "Really? Are you telling me the truth? Did you go home safely that night?" Delilah nodded. "Yes, I did." "That's a relief. When you left, everyone missed you, especially Ron. But I heard you have 2 days leave. Why did you come here today?" "Miss Winters, I don't have any work at home. I cannot stay there just like that. So I decided to come." "Are you okay now?" "Yeah." "Delilah, you are a sweet young girl." Delilah was amazed. Lily was a tough woman. Though she was good at heart, but she was strict as well. So when she praised her, she felt stunned. "Thank you, Miss Winters. Tell me something. Are you living with your mate?" Delilah felt startled. "Mate?" "Yeah," Lily said and eyed her neck. Delilah touched her neck but her eyes widened. She was in her nursing uniform. She was hiding her neck all the time with her hair before wearing the uniform. But now her hair was tied up and her neck was revealed through the nursing cloth. Lily chuckled. It's okay. It's nothing. You can use my makeup. Lily put out a foundation to cover her neck. Use this. Delilah turned red and took the small box from Lily. Thank you, Miss Winters. She felt embarrassed. But she saved her for this time. If anyone else saw that, she would feel more embarrassed. Delilah went to the washroom and applied the foundation. Though the doctors were living in the village, they knew about makeup very well. Delilah never put on makeup but saw her stepmother using it daily. So she knew how to use them. When her neck was clear with the same tone, she went out and gave the box back to Lily. Take it, you will need it later. Delilah's cheeks reddened. She thanked Lily again. When Delilah was going to check on the patients, Lily stopped her. Delilah. Yes, Miss Winters. Lily smiled at her. Don't take me wrong. But since you are an Omega and you two are in an intimate relationship, he should have marked you already. A patient, don't take me wrong. But since you are an Omega and you two are in an intimate relationship, he should have marked you already. Mark. All the color of her face drained. Will he ever mark me? No, he is my master. I cannot think too much about it. Stop it, Delilah. Don't listen to anyone. She convinced herself not to assume things that would never happen. She wanted to reply to Lily but the door opened and a nervous Connor entered. You are here. I was searching for you everywhere. He said to Delilah but then he turned his head to Lily. He realized Lily was also in the room. Lily, sir. Lily bowed to Connor. She was shocked by how informally Connor was talking with Delilah. Lily, can you check the patient in cabin number 3? He is feeling nauseated, and the nurse in that cabin will give you his report. Lily glanced at Delilah and then at Connor. She nodded at Connor and left the room. The moment she left, Connor closed the door. What happened? Delilah asked. Wear this right now. Connor took out a necklace of 4 silver clove leaves. Delilah's eyes brightened up. Hey! Where did you find this? Your master made me run the whole forest just to find it. He sighed. Delilah put the necklace on and smiled. Wait. What's with that smile? Nothing. Connor chuckled. Okay, now I am going back to work. Thanks, Connor. It was the least thing I could do for you. Delilah felt relieved that the necklace was back. Otherwise, it would attract other men. She started to work to her schedule. There were different kinds of patients who came to the hospital. Some people had a fever and some people had serious injuries on their bodies. All kinds of patients were getting treatment there. Delilah was surprised by how many people got injured daily. Dear, how old are you? A middle-aged woman asked. I am 20, Aunt. Delilah replied to the patient. She was a middle-aged woman. She was an Omega, just like Delilah. So she could communicate with her well. The woman had some health issues. She would be fine soon, Lily said so. You are such a good girl. Sit here. Delilah sat beside her since it was last scheduled before the lunch break. Where are you from? Why do you ask that? I live in this village. Delilah replied while trying to be confident. The woman chuckled. Don't be nervous about it. It would not tell anyone about it. Why are you asking, Aunt? Your necklace. She pointed to her necklace. Delilah touched it. Where did you get this, dear? Delilah always put the necklace inside her top or her gown. But today she just wore it when Connor gave it to her. She forgot to put it inside. My family. She didn't realize she just called Everett her family. I see. Why? Nothing. This is not a simple necklace. I think they made a replica of it because it's very beautiful. Replica? Yeah. Do you know who made the real one? No. Could that necklace be a replica by Everett? No, he never went out of the forest. And it was not a replica but a real one. It helped her to remove her scent. A powerful wizard. Wizard? Yeah, his wife was the leading witch of our kingdom. She was very powerful, no power could win against her power. But something happened and she had to lose her life for making a mistake. And for that, his husband had to fulfill her wife's damage. He made a few things and one of the things was the 4-clover necklace. There was something in the woman's eyes that Delilah could easily notice. It was a regret. Delilah could not understand how Everett got that wizard's necklace. He gave it to her just to secure her from other men. Why? Where are you lost? The woman asked. I can't understand what you are saying. You don't have to understand, I am just saying. Just forget it. Delilah nodded. She thought about forgetting about it. But again, she was a curious girl. She could not stay calm when she heard about something. Can you tell me the story about the wizard or whom he could give it to? Listen, girl. He cannot give any of that to your family. There was only one man who he could help. He will help him for his whole life. He owes his life to him. Why? Delilah assumed that one person might be Everett. Didn't I tell you his wife made some mistake? So he is redeeming his wife's sin. There were so many mysteries. Delilah felt she would never get to know Everett. He was a really mysterious man. How come a wizard was helping him? What did that man's wife do to him that he was redeeming for her? Will he ever tell me about it? Delilah thought in her mind. Don't think too much. You are too young to think about these deep things. Just live and enjoy your life. Have you found your mate yet? What the hell? Why is everyone asking me about my mate? Every time I think about the word mate, I can only imagine him. She sighed. No. I hope you will find him soon. He will love you, mark you, marry you. How long have you been working here? I joined this month. Nice. The woman smiled at Delilah. She found her very cute and young. You can take your leave if you want. I took your time, don't mind me. Delilah shook her head. Not at all, Aunt. She stood up and headed to the door to go out but stopped. She turned to the woman who was an Omega like her. But how did she know about the story of the witch and the wizard? She stepped towards her and asked, Aunt, can I ask you a question? The woman looked at her and nodded, sure. How do you know about the wizard? The woman stared at her for a moment as if she was thinking whether she could tell her about that or not. It's okay, Aunt, never mind. Delilah smiled and turned around but she heard her, the wizard I talked about, he is my brother. Her mate the wizard I talked about, he is my brother. Delilah was shocked. Aunt, are you serious? I know you will not believe me. No, I can believe you. Can you tell me more about it? About the man whom your brother is helping currently. The woman looked startled. Why do you want to know about him? I thought you would ask about my brother since I was talking about him. Delilah eased her expression. I was just curious. That woman scrutinized her. You are not from this village, are you? Delilah was silent. The woman cleared her throat. This is it, dear. I can't tell you more. Delilah nodded and left. The woman's eyes looked grim after Delilah left. Who is she? I need to ask my brother. But how can I enter the forest without his permission? Did he really give a normal girl my brother's locket? Why? I can't go now, he will kill me if he gets to know that I met her. Delilah talked with everyone at lunchtime. Today she had lunch with others in the canteen. Where were you yesterday, Delilah? Ron asked. I was a little sick. Delilah replied. Are you okay now? One of the nurses asked. The day before yesterday, everyone went to the fair together, so everyone got along well with each other. Yeah, I am fine now. Lily kept glancing at Delilah. I heard a few royal noble families have come to visit our village. Another nurse said. Yes, that's why the village market is giving sales for clothes and other things. Let's go today. No, I will go tomorrow. Delilah heard others. She understood that the village was under a kingdom. The Alpha King had many packs and villages under his kingdom. It reminded her of the old lady's words. The king would not help the villagers if they offended the beast. Delilah shoved the thought. She stopped thinking about the beast. Everett told her to do that. Delilah thought she could go to the village market to buy a few things. 2 of her dresses were torn up. Everett ripped one dress when she was in her heat and the second one was torn by her to bandage Everett's wounded hands. A sight came into her mind. When she saw him in the morning, she did not see her clothes wrapping around his hands. Did he remove it? Why? Did he use any medicine on it? She was an Omega, so her healing power was really slow, almost like a human. But that did not mean the other rank's power was very fast, like he got hurt today and it would be healed the next day. Every rank needed some time. The wound healed but they left traces for a time. After lunch, she took her leave from Lily. She was on 2 days leave but still, she came so she could go back too. Delilah headed to the village market. She still had the money Connor gave her to buy clothes. That time she bought a few cheap ones for her but a good shirt for Everett and saved the rest of the money. Now she wanted to buy a few again. She walked to the stalls and grinned. She felt herself independent. She did not have to think of anyone here. Her step-parents would not hurt her and there was no fear of the beast hunting her. She bought 3 long gowns without any design because those were less costly. Then she moved forward and looked for something for Everett. I will give him my gifts one day. Until then, I should collect them. She thought. Baby, she heard a woman. She turned around and saw a woman wearing a hat. She was calling someone, maybe her lover. Delilah turned around and continued walking. She heard that people from noble families would come today. The woman might be one of them. She stopped by a stall full of modern clothes. She remembered seeing so many stylish clothes inside Everett's cabinet. She had never seen him wearing those. So she did not think about buying any of them. However, her steps halted and she turned around. She smelled something, it made her dizzy. She walked to the scent as if it pulled her to the owner. She stopped in front of a man who was frowning at her. Pack it. My fiancé will pay for it. Right, baby? The woman said. The man who was frowning at Delilah lessened his expression and smiled at the woman beside him. Of course, I will, baby. Anything for you. He replied. Delilah was stunned. She glanced at the woman. It was the same lady she just saw a few minutes ago. She understood that they were an engaged couple. Unknowingly, she felt relieved. But the man looked at her again and his eyes turned full of lust. He licked his lips while looking at Delilah. She stepped back. The man kissed the woman's lips and then said something to the woman. The woman nodded at him and paid her attention back to her shopping. Then he walked towards Delilah. Delilah looked at him in horror. She turned around and ran out of the village market. She felt the man was following her. She ran as fast as she could and entered the forest. She did not stop her steps until she went back to the wooden house. Luckily, Everett was at home. He was doing something outside but paused when he saw her running towards him. He frowned. "What happened to you?" Delilah did not reply to him but hugged him directly. Her sudden action made him stunned. Her hold was so tight as if her life was depending on him. She hid her face in his half-showing chest. She smelled him and tried to calm herself. "What? I saw him," she replied with a trembling voice as if she was afraid to die. He narrowed his eyes. He was at the house all the time today. Then how did she see the beast? He thought Delilah was talking about him again. So he asked, "Him? Who?" "I saw my mate." "Want to be with him?" "I saw my mate." Delilah did not feel any movement from his body. She slightly moved her head and looked up at him. He looked indifferent. She moved back from him. "I saw my mate," she said to him again. "So?" he asked as if he did not care or as if it was not a big deal at all for him. She was startled. "I saw my mate, Everett." Hearing his name, he glared at her. She shook her head. Was it a time for him to get angry? She was talking about something serious, wasn't she? "Where did you see him?" he asked. Delilah bit her lower lip. "He was with a woman in the village market and oh, so are you upset because your mate was with another woman?" "No. She is his fiancée." Everett stared at her for a moment. He sighed. "So you are feeling sad that he has a fiancée, otherwise you would be happy if he was single and waited for you?" Delilah shook her head. "No. Why are you saying this? You are misunderstanding me." "Really?" he asked as he stepped close to her. "Doesn't everyone wait for their mates? You are also the same, right? You almost got a chance to stay out of the forest with your mate, but since he already has a woman, now you are regretting it, aren't you?" Delilah wanted to deny it. When she saw her mate she did not feel anything. It was only the bond that made her feel dizzy. When he ran after her, she got scared. She flew away from him and came to Everett. "What? You don't have any words?" "I don't want to be with him." "Believe me." "Believe? Do you think I care?" he asked. She felt her eyes were ready to stream tears out. She lowered her head. "Sorry, master. I forgot you don't care," she whispered while controlling her tears. She came to him because she wanted to tell him that it was him who she wanted to be with, not her mate. But this man had no feelings for her. How could she expect anything from him? He stared at her. She did not want to look at him. When she hugged her, that time, she wanted to tell him that she was not upset but felt relieved when she saw her mate had another woman. She was afraid because her mate had come after her. But now, when Everett already told her that he did not care, then how could she tell him all of that? Saying those would be useless. "Just remember one thing, you cannot run away from me. No one can come and take you away from me. Because you are my slave. Only I can set you free." His words pierced her heart. She almost felt happy when she heard his first sentence. But after that, he broke her heart. "Yes, master." She mumbled and went to the door. She opened the door and entered the house. She ran to the bedroom and locked the door. She sat on the floor and cried. What was that? Why was she feeling so heartbroken? She had never felt that before. After meeting Everett, she was feeling very new things that she had never felt before. Her broken heart was one of them. When my pack members bad-mouthed me, even at that time I did not feel like this. She told herself as she clutched her clothes. She was very afraid at that time, even her newly bought dresses fell into the forest when she ran there. She heard the sound of the closing door. She understood that Everett had come inside the house. She stood up and unlocked the door. She went to take a shower. She stayed more than 1 hour in the bathroom. She was crying in the shower and forgot about the time. She came out of the bathroom and saw Everett sitting on the bed. Without talking to him, she left the room. Her light steps on the wooden stairs made sounds. She went to the kitchen and started to make soup. It was evening time, so she also started to cook dinner. Her time passed in the kitchen. She glanced at Everett. He just got down and sat on the couch. She could see everything from the kitchen since it was an open kitchen. She set all the dishes on the table and called him. "Master, dinner is ready. If you want to eat, you can." Everett did not reply to her. She did not ask for it again. She sat on a chair and started to eat. She felt his gaze on her from behind. However, she did not let out a single word. She wanted to sleep early tonight. She did not even want to go to the bedroom. She would sleep on the couch, she decided that. She stood up and went to wash her dishes. She came out and glanced at Everett. Surprisingly, he was also looking at her. "You can eat and sleep," she said. "You don't have to order me." "I didn't. I just want to sleep early." "Then go." "I want to sleep here, on this couch," she replied hesitantly. He furrowed his brows. "Why? Are you missing your mate? Thinking that he would mind if he got to know about you sleeping in the same bed with another man?" His question shuddered her. "I never thought like that." Seeing him standing up, she stepped backward. "Then why are you acting like I would do something to you if you slept in the same bed?" "I have never said that. I just want to be alone for some time." He came to her and stood in front of her. She looked up at him. His face was gloomy. He always talked less to her. But today he was talking to her, yet his voice was so frigid. "Tell me. Do you want to go to your mate?" Alice stared at him. She tried to read his eyes. She somehow felt his eyes were familiar. But she could not recognize it. "No, master. I don't want to stay with him. Not because he has a woman. But because I don't want him as my mate." "Why?" He threw another question to her. "Are you curious to know?" she said boldly. "Why?" he asked again. His question did not change, since he did not get any answer from her. She took a deep breath and replied, "Because I have someone in my mind. I want to be with him only." "You broke my rule because I have someone in my mind. I want to be with him only." He bent his neck close to her face. "Who?" She stared at him without replying to him. She felt his hand grabbing her neck slowly. "I asked who." She closed her eyes. "I can't tell you." He let go of her neck and scrutinized her face. Go to bed and stop dreaming of what can't happen," he said and left the house. She did not open her eyes but tightened her fists. Her heart was running fast. Did he get to know about her feelings for him? What did he mean by not dreaming? Was it impossible to fall for him? Delilah opened her eyes and looked at the empty house. She did not go to the bedroom. She sat on the couch. She did not long for go to bed. She was totally okay until she met her mate. Why did he follow her? What was his motive? Didn't he have a fiancé? So many questions kept playing on her mind. She tried to sleep on the couch. She looked at the wooden ceiling and started to think about Everett. Where are you? Where do you always go? Are you that much comfortable with woods? The next morning, Delilah woke up early and got ready for the hospital. Everett did not come back to the house. She ignored the fact and made breakfast. She did not forget to make lunch as well. She would come back in the afternoon, but what would Everett eat if he came back at noon? So she cooked everything for him. She did not feel like a maid. She wanted to do that for him. She was confused by her heart, but when she saw him in the forest with Hans, she felt his pain. That time she realized, he became her family, her home. The weather outside was good today. She smiled when she came out of the house. The fresh wind touched her face and she felt refreshed. The way to the hospital from the forest was half an hour long. So Delilah began to walk. However, she did not forget to search for her bags that she had lost yesterday. Her 3 new gowns were inside the bag. She saw the bag and ran to it. She took the bag and felt relieved. But her brows frowned when she saw marks on the bag. The paper bag was pierced by the marks. Claws. She mumbled and looked at the bag carefully. Is there someone who shifted and came for a run last night? She thought. Thinking that it was a waste of time to think much, she began to walk in the direction of the hospital. Delilah, you need to watch this patient, Lily said to Delilah. Delilah took the report and looked at it carefully. The patient was affected by some diseases. What should I pay attention to? She asked Lily. You have to check their medicine schedule and give it to them in a timely manner. Miss Winters, what is this disease? It is called hydatirio. Hydatirio. Yet. When our wolf's body heat can't match our human form, that time we use some potion to settle down the heat. Most of the time, we need to take care of the patient's breath and then their skin. It is an unknown disease that our head doctor discovered. All the symptoms are stated in the report. You can check. Okay. What about the patient? Is she highly affected by hydatirio? No. She had a few symptoms. It's good that she came early. Delilah nodded and read the report. Then she went to the cabin to check on the patient. She entered the cabin and saw the patient. She was a young teenage girl. Hello, Jenica. Delilah approached her. She saw her name on the report, so she called her. The girl was 16 years old. She smiled at Delilah. Hello, sister. How are you feeling? Is everything all right? Yet. Are you having any problem in breathing or moving your body parts? No. Okay. Delilah did not give any tonic to her. She sat down and talked to the girl. Jenica said a few days ago she was having breathing problems. Then suddenly the bloodlines of her body were becoming visible. She got afraid and told her sister about it. Her sister managed the hospital fee and admitted her there. Don't worry. You will be fine. Delilah assured her. The day passed with getting new information about a new disease. When Delilah went back home, She saw the house was still empty. She took a shower and spent her time reading other information about medical care. She had to study hard. Otherwise, she would not be able to assist the doctors. Late at night, Everett still did not come back home. Delilah lay on her side on the bed and tried to sleep. When she almost fell asleep, she heard the sound of the door opening. The other side of the bed shoved a little. Delilah was about to turn. "Don't turn. Just sleep." Everett's voice came to her ears. She did not dare to turn and closed her eyes tightly. He at least came back home. That was her biggest relief. The next day was the weekend. Delilah woke up and turned around. She saw Everett sleeping. His face looked very handsome. He was looking calm as if he was not an aggressive man in nature. Delilah moved a little close to him. She looked at his face carefully, his sharp jawline and beautiful features. The marks on his cheeks made her brows furrow. The marks looked like someone scratched his cheeks. She lifted her hand to touch him. But before she could touch it, a hand grabbed her wrist tightly. Delilah whined in pain. She felt as if he was going to break her bones. "I am sorry. Please, leave my hand." She almost cried in pain. Everett glared at her. "You broke my rule. I hate it when someone touches me and you dare to do that." Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.